Now back to the Republican presidential debate that you saw right here on NBC6.
NBC News correspondent Hallie Jackson is live with us this morning with some analysis from last night's big debate. Hallie, it wouldn't be a debate without some fireworks. We saw the testy exchange with Vivek Ramaswamy and Nikki Haley. In your eyes, in your view, who stood out the most last night? And did any candidate do enough to close that gap between Donald Trump and his big lead?
Hey, Chris and Constance, you're absolutely, I think, asking the exact right question, right? Did anything actually shake up the dynamics of this race enough to make a difference to dent former President Trump's lead? Because as you know, right now, he is far and away the Republican primary favorite. Listen, you saw, it did get personal, by the way. You're right. Some of those attacks from Vivek Ramaswamy against Nikki Haley provided some of the sort of spiciest moments of the whole evening when he went after her on, for example, her adult daughter having used TikTok. You heard Nikki Haley say, "Get my daughter's name out of your mouth," essentially. Also, the heels exchange as well, which Nikki Haley seemed prepared for. She had a retort to at that point. Those were some of the moments that had the most fireworks. I was looking for more fireworks aimed at former President Trump, candidly, because that is really one of the key ways that any of these candidates can try to make a dent in his lead, especially on the issue of foreign policy. This is an area where these candidates largely had an opportunity to draw some distinction with former President Trump as it relates to this issue, specifically, for example, with the backdrop of the Israel-Hamas war. You heard Donald Trump come up in the beginning a little. You heard him come up at the end again a couple of times through the debate. But it was not sort of the bomb throwing, and not that I would expect that from anybody other than Chris Christie, but at least the contrast drawing that you might see. The challenge for some of these people, and I spoke with the governor, Governor DeSantis, right after the debate, and we talked about this a little bit. He's got to walk the line between making sure that he is still embracing the base of former President Trump, because he's going to need them to vote for him in some of these key states like Iowa, while also trying to explain why he is a better alternative to the former president. Governor DeSantis seems like he seems pretty confident heading into Iowa. He made the point to me that a lot could change between now and then, that now 67 days away. He feels like people there are just starting to pay attention, guys.
Yeah. I listened to the conversation you had with Governor DeSantis in the spin room after the debate, where he talked a little bit more about his big boost in Iowa, getting that key endorsement this week, and he thinks those numbers are going to change as voters lock in.
That's right.
Donald Trump had that key rally, though, across town in Hialeah. Huge crowd, as he has had in his other three attempts during these debates. How did his message come across?
Yeah, we saw some of your aerials of that, in fact, over the crowd, which he drew to Hialeah there. And listen, he did what we've often seen the former president do. He talked past the candidates who were on stage just where we are here at the Adrian Arsh Center. He spoke largely to an audience that is full of supporters, looking ahead to the general election, casting this as a hypothetical matchup between him and President Biden, which is what we've seen again and again in the polls. He referenced the debate. He talked about it a bit. He got that endorsement from his former press secretary, sort of reunited there with Sarah Huckabee Sanders, who is now, of course, the Arkansas governor. And this was what we expect to see from Donald Trump. Let me just tell you, if I had to guess, probably next debate as well. There is no expectation, according to his campaign, that he's going to show up on stage for the next one before Iowa. And frankly, in the eyes of his campaign advisors, who have been speaking with for months now, why would he? In their view, it doesn't make sense for him to be on that stage with candidates who are polling well beneath him to try to take those shots. He can do something like what he did in Hialeah and have just a different experience there, Chris and Constance.
All right, Hallie Jackson live for us in downtown Miami with reaction from the debate. There were a few fireworks, though, and interesting to see. Of course, we've got more on debate coverage for us, not just on air, but also on our digital platforms, including in-depth analysis and also fact-checking. That's on the NBC6 apps and also NBC6.com.